Hey ladies, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jumoke Win. I'm your favorite femininity coach and women's mentor. Okay, so yesterday we talked about the fundamental thing that is keeping you single, that will keep you single forever. Okay, if you want to bank on being single forever, there's a 99.999999999% chance that you'll be single forever is don't talk to men. Now, there is a small smidgen chance that you might get married by not talking to men. And that is if your type is Amazon Prime drivers or FedEx drivers. Perhaps, right? Perhaps you might still get married if that's your type and that just all the stars align and an Amazon Prime driver comes to your house and says, hey, God said that you're my husband. Let's get married tomorrow. Perhaps, you know what I'm saying? But what are the chances of that happening? Not really high. Okay. So today we're going to talk about what you should be prioritizing in every season if you want to get married. And again, if you don't want to get married, if marriage is an option for you, if you're treating marriage like it's just a Birkin bag, it's a luxury, you don't have no faith for it, you don't want to be cheated on, you don't want this, I don't want to marry the wrong one, blah, 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 blah. If you're all in defense mode and marriage really is not something that you want, then just be celibate. Have to sneeze. Excuse me. Do I have to sneeze again? I hope not. No, I'm good. Like I said, nuns are recruiting. You can dedicate your life, your service to the kingdom of God. There's nothing wrong with that. I think God will be glorified whether you're single or you're married. But if you want to be married, I think that some women, they really need some coaching because you're going to get lost in the sauce thinking that just you're going to be prioritizing the wrong things in the wrong season because no one has ever told you these things I'm about to share with you. So I'm about to share with you, I'm saying some real good mentorship, some godly femininity mentorship. So make sure you're taking notes. All right. I'm going to go by each stage of, well, not each stage, but like each age group and what I believe that a young woman who wants marriage should focus on in each season. Okay. So if you're between the ages of 18 and 22, you should spend 80% of your time focusing on yourself and 20% of your time focusing on men. Okay. So usually in this age, women are in school, right? They're in school. They're probably getting their first degree. They're getting their bachelor's. I think that if you are super young, you're not pressed to get married just yet, right? Like you're still really young. Maybe you didn't finish your degree. You still have a lot of life to live. You still have a lot of maturing to do. Unless if you were raised in a culture that prepared you to be a wife since you were younger and prepared you to be a homemaker, you probably are still trying to figure out your own identity as a woman. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with focusing on yourself. Go to therapy, go to school, find hobbies, find your own interests, understand your purpose in life. What direction are you going? What has God called you to do? Solidify a relationship with the Lord, read the Bible. I think all of that is great when you're young. Okay. So I say 80%. I would never tell a woman who is of marriageable age to focus on herself 100% completely. Simply because you just miss 100%. You miss opportunities. You don't know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. I don't think it's wise to try to anticipate, okay, I'm going to meet my husband at this time, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. You don't know. So if you're younger, you really don't have to do that much or you don't really have to focus that much on men simply because you're still young and you have time. You can literally at this age just exist, but keep yourself open. So if a young man from, the computer engineering department, the engineering department, the computer science department, okay, doing his pre-med, okay, has high resource potential, okay, he wants to ask you out on a date, he wants to take you out, don't say, no, wah, wah. Look, you're focusing on your studies. I'm not saying go drop that completely and go for men. But if someone asks you out in college, right, and this man has high resource potential, do not throw that away because you're focusing on yourself. Just be open. It doesn't have to go anywhere, right? Bring him home to your father. You don't have to go and sit here and be a forever girlfriend. You don't have to go and sit here and be fornicating. But if he asks you on a date to, I mean, if he's in college, he probably doesn't have that much money. I don't know. Maybe to Panera Bread or something, right? And he asks you to go on a date there and you both are young, go ahead and go on the date. Okay? Go on a date. But again, you don't really have to put much work into your dating life, 18 to 22. Now let's shift gear. From 23 to 26, you should focus on yourself. Now we shift 50% and on men and dating, 50%. So it's a 50-50 between self and men. You guys know, I'm always telling young ladies, you should cash out by your mid-20s. White people know this very well. It's called ring before spring. They know that, okay, I'm supposed to find someone and get married before I graduate college, right? A lot of young women do that in other cultures. But for some reason, especially as Black women, I don't know why we wait until 34 to think about marriage. No, you should cash out when you have the highest bargaining power, right? When your fertility is still high, you're still hot, men still want you, you know, you're on top of the world, that's when you should cash out. So I say 50%. Again, it's still 50 because you are still it's like you are at your peak, so you don't have to put in that much effort, right? You just have to open yourself up to the idea of dating. You just have to go outside, especially if you're out of college by this point and you're living on your own. What else is there to do, right? That's why I told my one of my relatives, I'm like, okay, you graduated, you did your master's, you're living on your own. What left is there to do? Or I gotta keep going to therapy. Please do not fall into the therapy trap. I know people who have been in therapy for 10 years and therapy is not, it's for some women, they're using it as a shield. I want to be fully perfect before I start dating. It's foolish. Don't do it. You don't have to be perfect to get married. You just have to be prepared enough. Get the tools that you need. Your therapist should be helping you get tools to manage whatever you got going on. And when you get triggered, you have tools. You have something in your arsenal, something in your toolkit so that you can pull from, right? So that's all therapy is supposed to be, okay? It's not supposed to be this thing that you're in for 40 years and 40 years going to the mountain. You don't have to do it to be perfect because you probably will always be triggered, but you won't know how to actually take what you've learned in therapy and apply to the real world if you are not dating. If you're not in intimate relationships with men, it doesn't even matter, right? You can take those years of therapy and throw it away. I tell women, I'm like, you really only need 3 to 6 months of therapy. Get the tools you need and move on with your life. But you don't need to stop everything that you're doing. Stop dating. Stop talking to men until you feel perfect and ready. Simply because time is not on your side and you may never feel ready. Most of my clients, I would say 95% of my clients are older than me. They're still not ready, right? Like they still have a lot of things going on emotionally and whatnot. But you know what's forcing them to be ready? Age, right? Time, fertility, the clock is ticking. And now they're like, oh my gosh, what was I doing all these years? Healing in a bubble, right? So 50% work on yourself, you know, again, still do your hobbies, go to work, right? Hopefully you're done with school by this time if you started at 18, but if you didn't still, and I think by this age, you should be getting into a relationship that is leading to marriage. I'm talking about this is when we go from just existing to now we need to put some effort into, okay, I don't have to burn myself out to date. I can still do other things, but I really have to incorporate this because I have the highest bargaining power right now. I need to cash out, okay? Now, 27 to 30, you should focus on yourself. 30% dating, 70%. Why? Because at this age, this is when your bargaining power starts to dip ever so gingerly. Like it's coming down. It's coming down. By the time you're hitting 30, it's coming down. Okay. But when you're still in your 20s, you're still hot. But now it's coming down. It's coming down. It's coming down. Right. You know, and it's like, okay, you missed a huge chunk of your fertile years already to just have children, let alone be married. But if you're not married and you're 27 to 30, most people back then were on their second and third child. You don't even have a man. Okay. Now we're starting to get a little bit behind. We need to put a little bit more effort and intentionality in dating, right? Hopefully you don't hear my daughter screaming in the background. She's trying to come in the room, but she good. Her daddy got her. So now we need to focus, okay? We need to focus on settling our homes. This is not the time. Between 27 and 30 is not the time to start a new rigorous degree. Can I say that? 27 to 30 is not the time to start a new and a rigorous degree. Now, if you want to go back to school to do your master's and it's a relatively easy master's, maybe your job is paying for it or it's paid for, it's not really a big deal. You can do that and you can date. No wala. But this is not the time now to go and do a PhD. I know someone's going to be, like if you weren't doing it already, this is not the time now to put your effort into, I want to go to med school now. Okay. And you're starting from scratch. Do you understand? This is not the time to be like, I want to go do a law degree, right? And you're starting from scratch. I'm not saying that you're already in law school and you're about to graduate. I'm talking about this may not be the best time for a woman to go back to school, because if it's a rigorous degree, you're going to put all your energy and effort into that and you will neglect dating. This is not the time to now shift into self 80% and maybe sprinkle in dating here and there when your bargaining power is already declining. Okay, so you're already losing some power. All right, now let's talk about 31 to 35. You should focus on yourself 10%. Focus on men and dating 90%, simply because now you are in what the bros call the danger zone. Okay. And I'm not saying this because I know some women, they are so sensitive. Oh my gosh, women take things so personally. You're fear-mongering people. You can still get married in your 30s. And I always have to keep reiterating, I'm not saying you can't get married in your 30s. But at some point, especially as Black women, when are we going to be honest with our mistakes and tell the younger generation to do better? If the shoe don't fit, if it don't apply, let it slide, right? Hit dogs are hollering. I'm not talking about older women. I'm talking to younger women who still have a shot, okay? Right? Who still have a shot, who are still young, who are still vibrant. They're still young whippersnappers. They need some guidance. I'm not going to sit here and make a mistake and to protect my ego, say it wasn't a mistake and then encourage another younger woman to make the same mistake and end up just like me, single. How would I be a single woman, okay, in my 30s? Or maybe I got married in my 30s, I'm struggling to conceive, and then tell someone to go and do exactly what I just did. Madness, right? Madness, right? Again, we didn't know what we didn't know back then, but if we know better, we do better, and we tell others to do better, okay? So this is when you're in the danger zone. You've lost bargaining power, significant bargaining power, and your fertility. Well, no, you're still good in your 30s, 30 to 35 when it comes to fertility. But if you're not already married, we don't know the journey. You cannot see what women do is that they try to focus on themselves. And it's so backwards. Ladies, it's so backwards. When you're in your 30s, this is not the time to shift gears into 90% focusing on self and 10% focus on dating and men. No. This is not the time to go run into therapy for another 10 years and just complain that where are the good men at and go out once a month with your friends to a brunch and say no one approached me. Woo, that's not the strategy. That is not the strategy. This is not the time to literally just exist and do nothing and now try to rush and fix all your issues and then sit here and think that minimal effort is going to get you maximum results. It will not. Because remember, I told you the fundamental thing that is going to keep you single is not talking to men. But if men are the consumer, right, and you are the product, and there are new versions that are coming out of the same product, right, and you are losing bargaining power, now is not the time to keep withholding. When I say withholding, I'm talking about healing in a bubble, not going on dates, not talking to men, not whatever. This is not the time. This is the time to, if you have not cashed out, If you're not in a relationship at this point, at least if you're in a relationship, a long-term relationship, you got some, you know what I'm saying? You have something. But if you are completely single, you've never been in a relationship, or you've only been in one relationship 10 years ago, this is not the time to now focus on yourself majority and just try to sprinkle in dating here and there. Because there's something I tell my clients, it's called law of averages. You don't know how many men you have to talk to in order to get a date, and in order to get into a relationship, and in order to get married. It's a funnel. You cannot talk to one man every year, one a new man every single year, and after you're in your 30s, just one man. You're only vetting through one man, only getting to know one man, only getting to know one man's character in an entire year. How many men are you going to have to sort through before you find one that you're compatible with? Meanwhile, your bargaining power is significantly declining. It doesn't make sense, right? So you have to focus on men. You got a little bit of space to focus on yourself. You know what I'm saying? You can still, serve at church and, small things. But at this point, if you're not married, you have to put in more work and effort, because at this point, you're no longer your preference's preference, right? You're not in your 20s. Your biological time clock is ticking. You're already in a place that, and then at this age, some women already have kids out of wedlock, or have kids in general, whether they were married or they weren't. You have a lot of and they have bodies. We don't talk about this. They have past promiscuity. There's so much that comes with age that most men would rather take a woman who is younger, right? A man who's ready to marry, let's say a man who's 34 ready to marry, he'd rather pick a woman who is 28 to marry versus a woman who is his age. That's how the dating market is today. And because marriage is dipping, we don't want to risk it and just be la-di-da-di-da, making my way downtown and not doing anything. We want to at least be outside. If not, be on the dating app. But you have to be extremely more intentional. Let me move on. This is the last thing. Now that you're 35 plus, any woman who's 35 plus and wants marriage, you have to focus on men and dating 100%. And when I say 100%, I'm talking about outside of your core needs. I'm not saying don't go to work, right? Go to work. You need to survive. You're a human being. You can go to church on Sunday, but at this point, this is not the time to now start stacking up all these extracurricular things that are not going to get you married. Because what women do is that they throw themselves into busyness. They're like, oh, I'm going to serve on every team at church. I'm going to sing in the choir. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do. It's like at that point, it's by your actions, you're showing that you have made your bed in celibacy, which is a vow of lifelong singleness. I'm abstaining from marriage. I'm dedicating my life to the kingdom. A woman who is choosing marriage would not be moving in that way. So I'm not saying don't go to church, but you don't have to serve on every committee. Hello. You're doing all that. And again, the fundamental thing that's going to get you married, which is talking to men, you're not doing it. If you're not doing the fundamental thing that will get you married, ultimately, it doesn't matter how much you're serving at church. It doesn't matter how much you're paying your tithes. It doesn't matter how much you're, did I say fasting? Whatever. It doesn't matter if you are not talking to men. If you are not positioned in front of a man to choose you to marry, and especially the type of man you want, you are wasting your time. Some of y'all are sitting here spending hours on the phone with women that are single, right? Like, instead of you to go out not every evening, but every weekend, go out to where young men are that can see you, that can choose you. What are you doing? Staying at home, binge watching Netflix, eating potato chips, hanging out with your single friends. This is what I mean by spending all this, like, self is 90% and like, oh yeah, I'm open if a guy wants to approach me whenever I go out, twice a year, and I'm in a group of people, like, he can't actually get to me because I'm only here for my friends. I'm not really here opened, right? I'm not open to receiving a man. He's supposed to just see me in the sea of women and pick me because he's my Prince Charming. Delusional. Okay, so anyways, ladies, that is what you should focus on in every single season. if you want marriage. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.